I don't know about this background not on Instagram, on YouTube and on Facebook. I don't know. Technology, they're always changing. Always changing. Good morning, America. Happy day. What's happening this week in adoption? Well, in this episode of This Week in Adoption, I don't know, hang tight and we'll see what we talk about. Well, let's talk about birth parent rights. I don't know how this came up or when it came. I think it came from, I'm not sure, but let's talk about it. All right, birth. Oh, do you want to come? Hey, Soul Filling by Fran. You asked to sent a request to be in your live video. Do you want to be? Tell me. You can be. You can come join me. We can talk about this together. We can make this a second episode together. you had requested, hi, Ashley K. Anyways, this week in adoption, let's talk a little bit about birth parent rights. So what are those rights? And I just listened, I just went down a rabbit hole and listened to all the videos from Ashley Johnson, I think is her name. She recorded it for her son, her entire story. It was captivating and horrifying and really sad. And every time I hear these stories, I wonder, what am I doing in this industry? And I have to remind myself that there are adoptions that happen. I want to believe the majority that really need to be happening, that are the birth parents' requests, the birth mom's request, that she has been given her options, that she has, thought about all the things, all her decisions, and that this is the best decision for her, and that the way it's done can be a beautiful thing in the long run. I believe that to my core. I do. And I also believe that there are some horrifying things still going on. Hopefully not that much. And I think that many of the things that we hear are from the past. I'm not naive enough to not know that there aren't some still happening today. And that scares me. And I think that I do the best I can to ask the right questions, to feel good enough to know when it feels right and when it doesn't. And maybe a small part of me hopes that by asking agencies the questions that I do, that maybe it will get them to stop and think and I don't know, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe I'm really naive. But I hope so. I hope so. So what are some of these rights? Number one, first and foremost, a birth mom has the right to choose, to make a choice about her baby, whether or not she wants to keep her baby or not. Now, unless the law steps in and says she lost that right, which is a shame, and that happens. And I do want to talk about this a little bit too, because I talked with a professional in Arizona. What happens a lot is that when there are drugs involved that show up in the baby's system, maybe even the mom's system, I don't know, that DCS, or the Department of Children's Services, usually are called in and will typically talk to a mom about making a plan, letting her know your child has to go into foster care and you can make a plan to get this child back in your care. Usually, if you do X, Y, and Z, it takes a long time. This is what they don't tell them. One, it takes a long time. Two, if you don't meet the criteria and don't do the things, which oftentimes, if a mom is addicted to drugs, they are given false hope that they will get their baby back, and they never do what it takes to get their baby back. And so their baby now goes into the system, usually house to house to house, foster home to foster home, hopefully which might end in an adoption and might end in the child aging out of foster care. This is the system we live in. And so what's happening more and more, from what I hear, is that more babies are going into the foster care system and more babies are dying because they're not getting the right care. So I'm all for a mom choosing to make a plan to get her baby back if that is indeed a real good possibility. In so many cases, it's not. So then we need to think, is it coercion for an agency to step in and tell this mom, I know what this DCS worker told you. The likelihood of that happening is low, and I want you to know what this means for your baby long term. Is that coercion? So these are the things that are talked about when the words ethical and unethical are thrown out. It's way deeper than one side of a story. It's way deeper than one side of a story. And so if you just hear one side, you might only be getting a third of the real story. And I think that that's really important to keep in mind. I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but this still has to do with birth mom rights, that you have to keep in mind the total picture. And even listening to the stories that I heard of this birth mom who was sharing her full story that I was horrified by, I also know it's one side of the story. I have no reason not to believe her. She seems credible. And it's one side of the story, right? I can't tell you how many times I've seen on social media, oh, this happened to an expectant mom, vilifying everybody else involved. And then I go talk to the other person involved, and they're like, Becca, what you don't know and what you don't see is XYZ. And maybe it's all the times we kept saying to the mom, are you sure? Are you sure? What can we do to help you? No, I'm sure. No, I'm sure. No, I'm sure. I don't know. It's a really, really difficult industry to work in when everybody around you is trying to vilify you for what you do. So the mom has a right to choose what she wants to do with her child. And hopefully she can reach out for some help and care and services and resources to help her if she does want to choose. I have to watch the time. I have 3 podcast interviews today for 3 different episodes. Talk about batching. I'm going to be exhausted by the end of the day, but I'm really excited about these situations, or about these interviews. The right to choose. The right to choose the parents or parent that will parent that child should she make the decision to place. She has the right to get options counseling. Now, I know most agencies will offer counseling. A lot of times it's refused. A lot of times moms don't want the counseling. Maybe they're ashamed. Maybe they're shy. Maybe they don't think they need it, but they need it. Now, some agencies require it, many don't. But at the very least, her caseworker should say, have you thought about abortion? Are there family members or friends, people within your system that can help you until you get on your feet? What would it take for you to parent this child? And can we meet those needs for you? So the right to choose again. She has right to legal counsel. Now, in some states, legal counsel is not required for a birth mom. She still has a right to legal counsel. And I would offer that if you are a family adopting a baby, that you ask the agency whether it's uh, legal in the state or not that she has legal counsel, that you ask the agency to please provide legal counsel, or you go out and find counsel for her, that you would be willing to pay that fee, couple $1,000, for her to be read her rights, for you to know that she fully understands the legally binding contract that she's about to sign that says she no longer has parental rights to her child. She has that right. And I'll take it as far as, if you sign a communication agreement for open adoption, whatever that looks like, the very bare minimum that the two of you agreed to, and hopefully it expands, that she has a right for you to uphold your end of the deal, your promise to her, whether or not she upholds her side. It is up to you to keep your word and be a person of integrity and keep your word. Now, obviously, you're not going to put yourself or your child in any kind of dangerous situation. And maybe you need a mediator to help you figure out what the right words are to put those boundaries in place. And I would ask you to please continue to leave the door open and don't make it a closed for good. People change, situations change, and your child deserves to know and to see that you did everything you could and you continue to do everything you can for that door to be open for your child and for the birth mom who placed with you and trusted you. I don't know what I'm missing. If you think I'm missing anything, I'd love to hear that, but I wanted to talk about that. Some really disturbing news is that adoption disruptions are happening a lot. There are so many scammers out there right now taking money from multiple families. It's hard for agencies to catch them. There are scam boards all over Facebook and within different adoption communities that hopefully, I guess this is a call out to any agency and any attorney, anyone you are working with. I hope you can trust them and don't think that you can. We can't be naive enough anymore. We need to be posting to do our due diligence on these scam boards to see if anybody else has any information about somebody that you're possibly working with. Check social media. We need to be doing our due diligence because it's awful. It's really awful. And it's at the hands of the hopeful adoptive parent. And we're talking not only emotionally, but thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars to be lost. There are scammers who prey on vulnerable people emotionally and financially. So we have to be careful. We have to do our due diligence. If you are working with a consultant, which I highly suggest, despite whoever wants to villainize us, I don't even know what for. We don't work with birth moms. We're just providing a whole lot of education and handholding to people who need it while nobody else is doing it. Just saying. Have your consultant vet every single situation that you look at, no matter how good it looks to you. You might be missing something. You might not know a question to ask the agency before you say yes. And for those of you who are worried about finances, you have every right to be. 10 years ago, well, my son just turned 13. 13 years ago, 10 years ago, adoptions, the fees around everything involved in adoption were in their 30s. And now, in some cases, they're climbing up to the 80s. What? For those of you who are listening and are not looking, I'm throwing up just a little. It's so, ugh. And, some of it is justified, some of it is not. Ask for, some of your rights are to see where your money's going. You can ask. Some agencies are more broad in sharing where the money's going, and some will give you an itemized receipt, which you should be able to get. Okay. Last but not least, some birth moms, expectant moms, speak Spanish. And so if you are working with an agency that primarily works with Hispanic women, you might consider getting your profile translated into Spanish. I don't have a resource for you, but go find it because one, it could work to your benefit, but also to hers, right? Going back to her rights, she has a right to understand everything that's going on and who she's placing with and all the things. So that's a good idea. That came up because one of the agencies asked my family to do that. And that is This Week in Adoption. Until next week, bye-bye. See ya. Love to hear from ya.